Welcome to 6 Feet in the Six, a show where we share ideas and best practices in commercial real estate. Joining us today is Mike Murphy, Team Room Partner Sales Executive at Microsoft Canada, and Sean Goldmitz, co-owner and vice president in business development with Spark AV. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Jeff.
Thank you.
Mike, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, you know what, Jeff, thanks for having me on today. My name is Mike Murphy, and I'm the partner sales executive at Microsoft, responsible for a category we call Microsoft Teams Rooms. And it's a hot category right now, and it's a really exciting spot. I joined Microsoft about a year, almost exactly a year ago, and it's been an absolute amazing journey over that year. I would say that I was able to get my dream job a year ago, to join a team like Microsoft in the meeting room technology space, and so professionally, I've had a fantastic year. I've been in the IT and AV industry for about 20 years or so, and working at various manufacturers and distribution companies. And over the last 10 years or so, I've had leadership roles in both distribution and in manufacturing. So really happy to be joining Microsoft, and what a crazy time it's been. Personally, I'm married. I've got 5 kids, and that usually surprises some people. But once you peel it back a little bit, that's actually for my wife and I, our second marriage. So I have 2 biological children and 3 stepchildren, and they're all in that late teens, early adults age group, which means my wife and I, we get our lives back a little bit now. And probably the last little tidbit about myself is, because of that, I'm actually able to do things for myself again. So I've started playing hockey for the first time in 15 years, and a couple of years ago, and I'm now actually playing 3 nights a week. So having lots of fun with it.
Sean, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a VP Business Development and co-owner of Spark AV. We're an AV and UC integration firm based in this beautiful city, Toronto. But we do work province-wide, nationwide, and even have a couple of clients that are global. I'm myself married, 3 beautiful young kids, and as far as anything outside of work, I've taken up kickboxing the past couple of years. So I've had some bumps and bruises along the way. Walked into the office limping a little bit after sparring, but it's all good, and it's a great stress reliever, let me tell you, especially after the past year and a half.
So in this next segment on the show, we take a deep dive on our guests' LinkedIn accounts and look for posts that need more context. I noticed that both of you actually had the same post over the past month. Is that you both received your accreditation for Microsoft Teams Room Solution Sales Professional? So it sounds like a great initiative. Mike, what can you tell us about it?
You know what? It is a great initiative, and it's an interesting one that you brought up. So Microsoft created a recognition for our channel partners that basically take a learning path and then are able to become certified. We call it badged in that discipline. And in this instance, it was around Microsoft Teams Rooms. And I don't know if it was just me, and maybe you can confirm or deny, Sean, but when we launched just a little over a month ago, my LinkedIn blew up. It seemed like everybody in the channel was posting these and accomplishing them and challenging their coworkers, and it was absolutely incredible, to the point where this is actually the most successful badge initiative Microsoft's ever done. And you can imagine Microsoft does some pretty big programs. So amazing success, and it's really the first one we've done in the Teams Room area, and it was a smashing success.
Sean, what was the last year and a half been like for your business?
So it's been really interesting, especially at the start of the lockdown, when people really didn't know what was going on, what's happening, what the future entailed, and our AV was kind of put to a halt. And then all of a sudden, we start getting emails from our suppliers and manufacturers about sensor temperature components and hardware. Your clients need this before they can enter a meeting room. And then we were getting components, scanners that will disinfect your smartphone in a matter of minutes. And all of a sudden, the term pivot comes up, and we're pivoting, we're going around in circles. And then finally they say, hey, let's just stick to our core values. things are going to improve. So once we got beyond that little hump, a lot of our team, even though we were locked down, they were educating themselves. So it was a great time. We didn't lay anybody off. So it was a great time for our technical team, our sales team to kind of re-up and all their certifications. And then as projects started opening up and construction started opening up, we were ramping up uh, beautifully, actually, near the tail end.
What were some of the most common questions you got from your clients at the beginning of the pandemic?
How are we going to work? Uh, you know, they're all used. People were used to meeting with clients through video calls and whatnot, but they weren't used to collaborating with each other internally over calls like this. It would be everybody would book a meeting room and congregate in a meeting room or a cafe or somewhere within their office. Now it's like, okay, everyone is in their own office, at home office. How do we collaborate? What do we need? So we were getting a lot of our clients reaching out saying, do we need monitors? We need webcams. What can we do? How do we collaborate? How do we annotate? I want to make changes on this document and send it over. So we were getting a lot of requests and really had to work from home, to be honest with you. So we became almost like home AV consultants as opposed to, corporate integrators.
And if I could jump in there, it's amazing, Sean, when you mentioned you were getting asked to sell, hand sanitizer. I remember, all these solutions with like digital signage solutions with hand sanitizer, and it's amazing because I forgot about that moment, but it seemed to be everyone was going to pivot there. And it's like if you take a breath and just let that kind of thing settle down, you can see a little further down. You realize there's change, but you don't have to get off into a complete left turn along the way. And so yeah, when you mentioned that was a flashback that I'd actually almost blocked out.
Well, Mike, I mean, we can just keep going.
Yeah.
There was no pivoting for Microsoft last year. Your tools came to the forefront, if they weren't already at the forefront, as a pretty common tool that most organizations use. So what was the last year and a half like for yourself?
Well, you know what, for me personally, it's probably a perfect example of what Microsoft's gone through. Is I was hired in a new role at Microsoft. So we are in expanding mode. And it seems to be COVID created haves and have-nots in the corporate world, and unfortunately, Microsoft has been in an explosive spot. And a big part of that is the fact that Microsoft is a cloud company, and the whole world is relying on the cloud at this point. So that makes Microsoft's core business, of course, more important than it's ever been. And then layer in with that Teams, Teams being a collaborative tool that really has been one of the tools that got commerce to continue while we went through this time. And it's only getting bigger. There are stats out there that, right before the pandemic, in March of 2020, there were 32 million daily users of Teams. We've just announced, I think it was a month ago now, we're at 250 million monthly users. So we adjusted how it gets reported, but it's getting close to 10x usage in terms of what was being used back then. And Teams was a good collaborative tool back then, but as you can imagine, we have absolutely ramped up investment on the engineering of the Teams, and so arguably it might have been a good tool back then, but it's a really good tool now in terms of the features and things that are there. So it's the fact that I'm at Microsoft now and I wasn't 18 months ago probably is a great example of where we're at. And an interesting kind of anecdote to that is that Microsoft before pre-COVID had actually been in the state and had announced that we're moving our headquarters from Mississauga to downtown Toronto. There's two pretty high-profile towers going up in downtown Toronto at CIBC Square, and Microsoft's got a series of floors in that high-profile project that's happening. And of course, COVID has caused delays on construction and the ability to get things done, and it's caused our operations teams, I'm sure, fits in terms of when to leave the old building. And I don't know if it's official, but we're kind of in between the zones right now. We're not quite in the old one, and I think generally we're not using the mainstream use of the old building. So a really unique moment in time, and we layered in a massive move, and there's a lot of excitement to get in the new building for sure.
Sean, what do you hope the future of the workplace looks like?
So first of all, I think I guess, as they say in corporate real estate, more butts and seats. So definitely more people transitioning back into the office towers and whatnot, and working in much more collaborative environments where not just spaces, meeting rooms versus open areas or open collab spaces, but even furniture as well. And that way we can suggest different hardware and software just to enhance the viability and the workflow for corporate Canada. There's a lot of technology that's coming out, and I know this isn't a Microsoft show, but them leading really the industry and what they can do from a software perspective. Again, there's a lot of hardware that's supporting that. So we can design rooms and spaces with technology where you can have living digital walls that, when not used as a collaborative space, it can just be a showpiece of digital content. And it's not just a display on the wall, but you could really have a whole wall as a digital screen. So those technologies, like what you see at Young Dundas Square, like those video technologies, are now coming into the corporate space. Cost is coming down, quality is going up, and the things that you can do and the content that can be displayed is amazing. And again, bringing in that broadcast type quality imagery and content is really going to up the game for corporations who are looking to embrace that and kind of go outside the box of the four-walled meeting room.
That's great. I mean, what are, we talked a lot about holograms on this show, and we joke about some of the things that we think are coming out. Kind of what's like the most futuristic thing that you've seen from a hardware perspective?
There is that type of technology. So there is one technology that's out there now, and it's difficult. It's like a hologram, and there's all these little pinwheels that are kind of mounted on a wall, and they reflect light, and there's a holographic image in front of it. It's really cool. It's really interesting. It's still somewhat out there. Years ago, we did a deployment for a pharmaceutical company who needed 3D modeling. And what we did is we stacked a couple of projectors. Yes, I'm going to say projectors, and with special software. And it was really cool. They had a three-dimensional molecule kind of floating around the front of his screen, and it looked really cool. Now, that is like 10 years ago, but that technology is, I think, being embraced again, not just, say, for a pharmaceutical company, but to your point, Jeff, those types of technologies will be coming. Not yet, though, because really, you still need a two-way communication. So, but there are images, like if you see like the Avengers, almost, they have that sort of technology where people are there but they're not there. If you remember in Star Wars, the first one, they were playing that little game with the little figures on the table fighting each other. That type of technology, that's still in the future, but a more immersive technology where people are larger, more real, like they're in the room with you, that's definitely happening in the near future.
And you know what, Jeff, I can add in that Microsoft, I think it was about 10 days ago, so really, really fresh off the presses, kind of gave a sneak peek on kind of that stuff that we're talking about right now. And Microsoft has a virtual reality program called Mesh. And we announced Mesh for Teams. And there'll be two kind of stages to it. But essentially what it'll mean is that we will have the ability in the next 6 months to have an avatar instead of, if I didn't want to talk today, I could build my own avatar if I didn't want to be on camera. And I would speak and I would look like an avatar, cartoon character-ish of myself. And that's really there to design so that those days when you're like, you know what, I don't feel like I'm on my game, or I've got the background's not what I want it to be, I'm in a public place, you can go into your avatar mode rather than just going into the logo or a still picture of yourself, and gives you that medium step towards being fully live and not fully off. And then that avatar will then progress into where we're going to have immersive spaces, and that you will have what looks like a virtual reality set, but your meeting room will be filled with people, these avatars from around the world, wherever you are, but you're all standing in the room together, maybe at a whiteboard, interacting on that same screen at the same time. And to expand from the meeting room, you'd be able to go out and, depending on whatever business space that it might be, that you would have a water station or a ping pong table or whatever. But just to give you those casual places that, you know, in between meetings, I got 15 minutes, let me check out and just see who's out there to have a chit chat with. And it'll be a tool that's a little bit out there right now conceptually, but it's one that captures the imagination on how do you connect people in those little ways that we dropped off in terms of those casual connections when you're not sitting in the same building.
And from a software perspective, kind of where do you see some of these products going in the future?
You know what, a big part of it was what we were talking there. You know what, there's going to be an increased investment in Teams. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, about maybe 60 days ago, came out with a pretty outlandish statement if you just took the statement on its own. But he sees Teams becoming bigger, and a bigger announcement than the internet. And of course, you listen to that, okay, maybe it's a little grandiose, but Satya's not that way typically when he makes his announcements. And then he kind of layered in underneath that, saying that Microsoft's going to put development where everything will live in Teams. That will end up being the central hub of where we work. And you're seeing little things like it, like PowerPoint Live. So when you're using Teams and you go into PowerPoint, the files can be stored right there within Teams. You can pull it up, and you've got additional functionality with PowerPoint because you're in Teams. The announcement about Microsoft Mesh, there's another one that you're going to be able to pull that in. You know, we're already there with collaboration. We're there with file storage. I think you'll see more and more development on Teams. It'll become bigger and bigger and more central to the user experience for how Microsoft wants workers to be able to get work done.
Sean, is there anything else you want the Six to know about yourself or Spark AV?
You know, we're here, we're available. We miss, even though we're talking about Teams and video calling, we miss people-to-people, face-to-face conversations. So reach out and let's just schedule a meeting. We're 5 minutes from the core. We're here to listen. We want our clients and partners to talk, and we're here to listen, and we're here to help where we can when it comes to moving forward with meeting rooms and workflow, all the good stuff that's about to happen in the very near future.
Well, thank you both for coming on 6 Feet in the Six and sharing your thoughts on the commercial real estate industry. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Toronto, you are the best city in the world, and we can't wait for you to feel better again.